Okay, it says we are live, so I'm going to take its word for it. Welcome back to another family education and support group with your host, Param. Looking forward to another 45 minutes or so with whoever's on watching this live, and also whoever has the opportunity to watch this later on in terms of the recording. So again, my name is Param. I have a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. I am a licensed advanced alcohol and drug counselor. I'm a high school basketball coach. I've been doing that for about 14 years. And this is my passion. I thoroughly enjoy doing this with some of the folks that come on here on a weekly basis. For example, Mr. Jim, I have the ability to pull up your comments. So if you're new, just know that if you want to write, like Jose John just said right here, I could put it up and put it on the screen. So if you have any questions about any of the content I'm talking about, this would be a nice platform to put it up there. So what do we do here each and every single week? We talk about various things. So we'll talk about addictions. We'll talk about mental health. We'll talk about communications, boundaries, goal setting, self-care, and a little bit of everything in between. And, when people pop up like Mom and Dad or Jess, all these different people that have been coming here for a long time, feel free to contribute, participate, ask questions, give feedback. And, one of the things that I have passion for that I believe is something that is the difference maker in the recovery process is this thing called personal development. I don't think that human beings can get above the level that they're willing to invest in themselves and develop themselves. But the beauty of personal development is that it has no ceiling. So the more you work on yourself, the more that ceiling starts to raise. And that's how we break through plateaus. And that's how we break through stagnation. And that's how we get our life from one version to another version. If you're ever wondering like, hey, why does this guy always talk about the possibility of human transformation? Because that's what I believe in. Every talk I've ever done is dedicated to the possibility of human transformation. And the reason why personal development is important when it comes to transformation, because that's the key that unlocks the transformation. You see, because without investing in yourself, how are you ever able to transform? And personal development is something that's a little vague for people. They don't really understand, well, what does it really mean to be developing myself? What does it really mean to do the things that you're telling us to do? So about 3 years ago, I created an acronym system for the word development. And the last time I've done this talk was actually a couple of years ago. So some of you that are newer have definitely never heard this talk. Some of you are older. It'll be kind of like a refresher. But the beauty of it is every time you talk about personal development, it always resonates in a new fashion. And why do I say that? Because the person you are watching this right now is not the person you were watching this in the past. We experience different life stuff throughout this journey. And as we experience and life unfolds itself, we start to gain new experiences. So I'm going to go through this talk, and pretty much the way this talk is going to work is we're going to use the word development, how it's DEVELOP, EMT. And we're going to talk about what each one of those things mean. Okay. So the very first one that we're going to talk about, the D, comes down to this word decision, and it comes down to this word decide. Like you have to decide, make a conscious decision, a conscious choice. You have to decide that you want to develop yourself, that you want to change, that you want to transform. And I'm not saying you got to wish for it or hope for it or want for it. You have to decide. And the reason why this word is so powerful, the word decide is so powerful, it actually goes to the origin of the word, and it goes back to what it really means. So I'm going to educate you on something here. When you look at the word decide, it says DECIDE. Okay. So what other words in the English language end with CIDE? Let's take a look. We got suicide. We have homicide. We have genocide. We have pesticide. What do all of those words have in common? Well, suicide means to kill off self. Homicide means to kill off another person. Genocide means to kill off a group of people. Pesticide means to kill off rodents, bugs, insects, stuff like that. So when you make a decision and decide to go on a new path of life, that means you kill off the previous version. If you decide to exercise and work out, you kill off laying around and doing nothing. When you decide to get clean and sober, you kill off the option of using. And see, that's where it all comes, that people don't really make that decision, because when times get tough, when it's a difficult challenge, when it's something like adversity, anxiety, fear, depression, trauma comes up, instead of sticking to that decision, they go back to previous versions of functioning. Anybody that's ever relapsed, so if substance abuse is what you struggle with, if you've ever decided to stop drinking and you do well for a little bit, and then all of a sudden you get in an argument with someone, you get overwhelmed, you get stressed out, you get triggered, and you go back and you grab the drink and you take a drink again, I'm going to tell you that you've never truly made a decision. Because if you would have decided, you killed off the option of drinking. The drink would have never existed for those who truly make a decision and decide. And that's the most important component of the personal development process is are you ready? Are you willing to make a decision and decide? For the family members watching this, if you're a spouse, if you're a parent, if you're a loved one, and you've set some boundaries and you made a decision to decide to stop enabling someone. As soon as you start to feel anxiety, fear, depression, sadness, worry about your loved one, and you say, you know what, it's okay, I'm going to put my boundaries down and they can come back and do whatever they want, you never made a decision. Because if you truly would have decided, you would have killed off the option to go back to a previous version of functioning. So when I say this one with so much enthusiasm and passion is because I believe most people are unable to accomplish their personal and professional goals because they lack the ability to make a true decision and to truly decide something for themselves. Okay? To kill off the options. There's Jim right here telling what I'm kind of preaching right now. I can make a decision, but I must follow it up with actions I need to change. See, if the actions don't come, it was never a decision. In our 12-step program, for those of you who follow, there's like this famous saying that's around that says there's 3 birds on top of a telephone wire. 2 of them decide to jump off. How many birds are still on the telephone wire? The answer is 3, because just the decision to jump off doesn't mean that they actually took the action to jump off. See, decision without action is meaningless. And action without commitment is also meaningless, because you'll take the action, and when you get frustrated, annoyed, overwhelmed, anxious, all that stuff I talked about, people typically go back to the previous version of functioning and they re-experience the same life. The E of development, so D-E, the E of development goes back to this thing called expectations. Okay, I've been on record saying that William Shakespeare says expectations are the root of all heartbreak. Okay, so what do expectations in changing your life around look like? Well, a lot of people expect that their life will get better with the discontinuation of drugs and alcohol. There is some truth to that thought process. But here's the actual truth. The only thing that gets better is the consequences related to the drinking and using go away. Everything else is still there. You know, so many people think that by taking this one action and stopping the use of substances, that all their life problems are going to go away. Their communication is going to get better. Their money management is going to get better. The choices are going to get better. The places they go are going to get better. The people they hang out with are going to get better. Maybe. But what if the only thing that happens is your problems with drugs and alcohol go away? What about all of the other stuff that's inside, underneath, in the roots, in the weeds? All that stuff starts to rear its ugly head out. Family members, how many of you have thought that all of a sudden with your loved ones stopping drugs and alcohol, the relationship is going to mend itself and heal itself. And then they stop the drugs and alcohol, and not only does it not fix itself, it gets worse. Anger comes out, resentment comes out, poor communication, no communication, trust issues, all that stuff starts to show up. See, that's where personal development comes in. That's where working on self comes in. These expectations that we talk about, they really are dangerous, because don't get me wrong, it's okay to anticipate something good happening for us when we're putting in the work. And if it does, it does. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But it's a healthy anticipation, a healthy expectation. But an expectation that's founded on nothing and rooted in nothing, the probability or the possibility of it working out the way you think it's going to work out could possibly be a delusional thought. And when it doesn't work out the way you thought it was going to work out, what do you do in that moment? Do you say, this doesn't work, that was useless? Or do you say, you troubleshoot the problem? You do a root cause analysis of the problem. Do you know what a root cause analysis is? You dig deep, 5 levels. Why did this happen? Why did that happen? Why did that happen? Why did that happen? Why did that happen? After about 5 whys, you get to the root cause. And this isn't something just in the recovery world, in the operations, the highest operations of big organizations, companies. That's how they find out how something went wrong. So the second one was expectations. And whoever else came on, Pacific Sands, what's up? Tony, Marina Harbor, what's up? Welcome again to another family education support group. The V of development is my favorite one. So the most important one for me is the V that I'm about to talk about. And we're talking about personal development and the components necessary to make lasting changes in your life. Hopefully it makes your life a little bit more enjoyable and pleasurable to experience. And what the V is values. See, our values are like fingerprints. We leave them on everything and everyone we touch. It is really easy to identify what someone's values are when you take a look at their actions and how they live their life. See, if someone tells me, I value honesty, but they're lying all the time, I call BS. If someone says they value family, but they don't communicate and talk to their family, I call BS. If someone says they value health and being optimized, but they're constantly doing things to impact negatively their health and not taking care of their health, I call BS. If someone says they value trust, but they're violating people's trust all the time, I call BS. You see, when your values are clear and your values are defined, you live by them. I've yet to meet someone that excels in personal development that doesn't have a clear set of values identified, defined, and live their life based on those values. When someone says their values are honesty, family, health, trust, guess what? They live an honest life. They communicate with their family in a clear way. They take care of their mind, their body, their spirit. They're trustworthy. You can trust them. And if you have yet to identify what your values truly are, I strongly suggest just going on Google and search values clarification exercises. You can get a list of values, identify the top 5 or 10 that you resonate with them, and then make that the way you live your life. There are studies that show when someone's internal values match their external actions and behaviors, that's the definition of health. Because when we don't act out on our values, we start to feel things like guilt, shame, depression, frustration, lack of motivation. But when you're aligned with your values, you start to experience happiness, joy, fulfillment, satisfaction, vitality. That's the good stuff. So when you're thinking about personal development, first you got to make a decision. You got to decide. You got to kill off the option to go back to the previous version of functioning. You have to get clear expectations for yourself. Clear expectations. Clear ones. Not false ones, not overinflated ones, not delusional ones. Real expectations in a timely manner. Then you got to know your values. What's important to you? Who's important to you? Why are they important? And then make your actions follow suit with those values. The next E that we have is this thing called everyday. God, if I could tell people just the value of doing something every day is so powerful. Okay. People overestimate what they can do in a month and underestimate what they can do in a year. So many of us think that by doing something for a month, we can get the outcome we wanted. And after a month, what happens? They're not there. They look around their world and it doesn't feel the way they thought it was going to feel. And what do they do in that moment? They get discouraged and they stop. But if that same person would have continued doing something every day for an entire year, they would end up in a completely different place in life. People overestimate what they can do in a month and underestimate what they can do in a year. And check this out. I'll take it one level further. People overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. Let me get back. I'm going to use a first-hand real life experience of a human being right here. You ready for this? So, when I was 25 years old, I decided that I want to transform my life. Okay. At the time, I had some community college done. 25 years old. So when you look at a 25-year-old in the standard version of society, that person's supposed to have been graduated in their first college job with some type of a savings account, heading towards some type of a relationship that's going to produce some type of a house that's going to have some type of a picket fence, and it's going to be able to live the adult life. I wasn't there. At 25 years old, I went into substance abuse treatment and, for things like anxiety, depression, and just the way I was living my life. After the first year of my life, if I would have looked back, I had 1 year sober, some more college classes done. I didn't have anywhere close to a bachelor's degree. And I didn't have any money in my bank account. I didn't have a job that paid a lot of money. I was working at places like a GNC, making, minimum wage, selling vitamins. Didn't have any type of relationships. Family was around, but they still, they weren't fully sure. It's hard to trust someone after a year. And if I would have stopped right there and looked around and said, you know what? Nothing's really changed in my life. I could have easily been discouraged and said, you know what? I tried this for a year. It didn't work out. People overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. When I fast forward from 25 to 35 in my life, I was a licensed therapist that was operating and managing a facility. I was 10 years of being a high school coach. I was 10 years sober. And where I was after a decade versus where I was after a year are completely different life experiences. Because time changes things when you have this thing called commitment after making a decision. God, it changes it so much. Most people just don't do it. People get discouraged. People just give up. People just give up. And that's the sad part of it. It's like, if you only allow yourself to keep going forward, what would happen? You remember I shared with you guys a story when I was in college, community college. I had the habit of leaving classes early. And I'm sober now. I'm trying to go back to school. I'm not feeling that good. And I go to class and it's break time and I get up and leave. Or in the middle of the lecture, I just walk out of the classroom. I'm like, you know what? This isn't for me. I don't want to do this. And I get up and go. And I keep getting up and going and keep getting up and going. One day on my way out of class, the teacher says, hey, where are you going? And I said, I got to be somewhere. I didn't have anywhere to be. And he said, can I tell you something? I said, sure. He said, I want you to know that every time you walk out of the class, you give up on yourself before you give yourself a chance to succeed. And I walked out of that class and I made it halfway down the hallway and I heard his voice. You give up on yourself before you give yourself a chance to succeed. And see, in that moment, there was no mom's problem, dad's problem, society's problem, the ex's problem, the life's problem. It was none of that. I was the one that was stopping my own success by leaving before the miracle happened. I walked back into that class. I said, hey, I'm sorry, I'm back in class. He's like, thank you for making it back. And I never left the class again. You see, at some point, we got to break these patterns because nobody else is going to do it for us. Nobody else is coming around to say, I'm going to help you and I'm going to help you and I'm going to help you. People might help in short moments, but when the help is gone, it's us. You're left by yourself. And can you stay committed in that moment? Some people can, some people can't. I've yet to find out why. That's a little bit above my pay grade to find out why some people find the motivation in life and some people don't. So the L of development is, let's see, there's some comments here. Tony, thank you. I needed to hear that right now. Sometimes we need things in certain different times. Monir, good morning. Jim, don't get discouraged, get busy. Josh, best boss ever. Thanks, man. I appreciate the compliment. Always a pleasure to hear nice things about self. So the L of lifestyle, the L is lifestyle. In learning how to live well. That's what I call lifestyle. And for some people, whether you're a family member or a person going through the recovery process yourself, I want to ask you a question. I want to pose something and see if you're willing to take it. Your new life is going to cost you your old life. Are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to sacrifice who and what you are for who and what you want to be? Some people say yes, and some people say no. Some people are willing to sacrifice some people, some places, some things in their life that are preventing them from moving forward in order to obtain a new life. And some people aren't. Some people aren't willing to sacrifice their old life for their new life. Why is that the case? I don't know. But I'm telling you, personal development means you must be willing to sacrifice who and what you are for who and what you want to be. Or else you're not developing nothing. Or else you're just continuing something. See, continuing something and developing something are two different things. One just goes and one creates. And when you create something, you can create whatever you want to create, but you can't have it both ways. Some people in the programs, they try to get off drugs and alcohol, but they want to hang out with their friends that are using still. Some people want to experience this new life of like health and energy and vitality, but they're on the couch eating the same stuff they're eating, living the same life they're living. Some people want to experience committed relationships with joy and connection, but they're hanging out with toxic people, wondering why it's not happening. There is no mystery. You got to kill off one side in order to embrace the other. You can't have both. You can't have both. And that's the whole point of personal development, is these decisions become real and when we have to make them. Jonah said, let's go, coach. There we go. That's another coach. I'm technically his coach. This guy's one couple levels above me when it comes to coaching, but great human being. If you ever have any kids in the Aliso Viejo area that are looking to play any type of recreational or travel ball, hit Jonah up. He is, I can vouch for his character. Let's see what Josh said. You're so right. I choose to follow a man in a club and be what I thought was loyal. I should have stayed where I was. I was in good hands. Hey, man, I can't. No comment, brother. But it's okay. We learn through life. We learn through things. So O is overcoming your limiting beliefs. So when you are looking at personal development, the O of development is overcoming your negative beliefs. This is where I can put on my therapist hat and give you some therapeutic guidance. So I did have a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. So what is an overcoming a negative belief? What does that mean? Well, who were you? Who were you? And who are you before the world told you who you're supposed to be? Right? Through this journey of life, we go through these experiences. And sometimes people inside your own home, when you're a child, tell you, hey, you can't do that. That's not for you. Stop dreaming so big. You don't have that ability. Take something safe. You want to study arts? No. Go into business. You want to study history? No. Go into science. Because that's where That's where the security lies. You want to learn about the history of film and all that stuff? No. I mean, that's ridiculous. Go become an engineer. That's where the money is. And as soon as you do that to somebody, you say, you know what you care about doesn't matter. What you're good at doesn't matter. Go take the safe route in life. That person goes, probably doesn't finish what they start because there's no passion there. You might get in a relationship and someone tells you you're X, Y, and Z. And guess what? You believe it. The teacher tells you you can't do something, you believe it. Society says you can't do something, you don't look a certain way, you don't talk a certain way, and you believe it. And it creates these things called limiting beliefs into our mind, which show up in our actions. Personal development means you overcome those limiting beliefs. How do you overcome your limiting beliefs? By massive action. By doing the things that society says you can't do and proving them wrong. And maybe even proving yourself wrong. And someone says, well, hey, I've never done it before. I'm scared. I'm worried. I'm not sure if I can do it. Yes, you can. Try it. There is no failure in doing the things that you don't think you can do. It's just lessons you learn about who you are and how you can overcome those. Nothing wrong with it. By overcoming your negative beliefs, you will learn something, that they are just thoughts that are not based in reality. They're not based in reality. They're based in some stupid story you're believing about yourself. Counselor Julian, what'd you say here? You are as big as your dreams and your goals. Yeah. If you don't dream big, you won't accomplish big goals. Dream big. Let society say you're crazy and stupid. You know, Julian right here, for those of you guys who don't know, about a year ago, he became a certified addictions counselor, which, you know, it's a good amount of chunk of schooling you got to go to become a drug and alcohol counselor. You got to go about a year and a half, right? Committed full time, do an internship. Now he's a counselor and he's like, you know, hey, Parm, like, I don't know if this is where I want to stop. I want to become a therapist. And he's thinking about his kids and he's thinking about their ages. And he's like, by the time they're this age, maybe I could be a therapist. So he's thinking big. If Julian, which I met, you know, about 7 years ago, would have told me I want to be a therapist in life, I swear to God, everyone in his life would have laughed at him. His friends would have laughed. Society would have laughed. The guys on the block he hung out with would have laughed and said, that's not for you, man. That's for nerds. That's for dorks. That's for kids that had their parents around and they took care of them and they did blah, 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 blah. No. Those are limiting beliefs. It's for anybody that wants it, anybody that needs it. So walking through fear leads to freedom. The one thing about walking through fear, it also creates this thing called courage. So for those of you who don't know what courage means, it means taking action despite of fear. Taking action despite of fear. That's what courage is. When you overcome your negative beliefs, your limiting beliefs, you got to walk through some fear. I mean, that's just the way it is. Look at this. Here's another one for you guys. I was told I could never get this because I was just too far gone. You know, if 18, 19 years ago, whatever it is, Jim, when you were pretty out there, you know, living underneath bridges, living underneath passes, homeless, asking for things from people, no teeth in your mouth, far gone mentally, far gone psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, probably no soul was in there, you know, wasn't at least getting too much breath of life. People walk by you, see you on the streets and say, oh, that guy's he's done. He's fried, far gone. And now I see Jim that I've seen this guy for 7 years straight. Every single day for 7 years. Imagine seeing somebody that shows up at a certain time, that does their work a certain way, that is pleasant to be around, that has transformed a lot of lives, that talks to families that I trust, that has a cool little convertible BMW M3 bluish kind of Z4 car, driving down looking like a freaking movie star. That's what I'm talking about, overcoming limiting beliefs. You know, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. Yeah, actually, yeah, you're right. Jerry sounds like someone you once met. Oh man, this is all coming full circle. Pretty much it's just a bunch of us that have known each other for like 7 or 8 years talking to each other right now. But you know what? It's cool. Jim is a good man. He's a good dude. So, oh, it's okay, Alan. What's up, bro? It's you and like a bunch of counselors in here and some family members. So enjoy this and soak it all in. There's a lot of wisdom happening in this chat today. So take it all in, and I hope you're still doing well. Don't worry about being late. Sometimes being late is better than not showing up at all. So the P of development is the power of planning. So if you fail to prepare, then prepare to fail. I have yet met a human being that doesn't seriously plan their life, seriously plan their day, seriously plan their activities. You know, what am I going to do here? What am I going to do there? Where am I going to go there? That is truly successful. The type of people that just wake up and wing it and say, well, I don't know what I'm going to do today, but I'll figure it out. Those people end up somewhere, but when they look around, it's not where they thought they're going to be. And here's the thing. I told you that expectations are dangerous. I'm not saying that if you plan everything out, that it's going to work out exactly as planned. I never said that, but I will tell you this. If you plan everything out, it will get you to a destination that's closer looking to what you want than just winging it in life and going based off your feelings. Man, if I lived life based on my feelings, I probably wouldn't do 95% of the things I do. I do it because I plan for it. I do it because I prepare for it, and I execute on the plan based on my preparation. And you know what? It doesn't always work out, but it comes pretty close most of the time. And that's better than not close all the time, right? Yeah, there you go. Jim, thank you. Jim just takes, I like to share things in a 7 to 8 minute kind of long-winded version. Realistic planning leads to realistic day or a realistic destination, right? We can call it that. The next one I have here is the M is mindset. The way I like to look at mindset is I pose the question, do you use your mind or does your mind use you? That is my favorite way to think about mindset, because mindset is something that we engage with. It's a conscious act. See, your mindset is not something that's subconscious. Like when I wake up and I want to prime my mind, I do things, whether it's exercise, meditation, talking to someone, focusing, planning, all that kind of stuff, that gets my mindset a certain way. So when life throws crap at it and objects at it and all that kind of stuff, when life is throwing things at it, my mindset keeps me on the right path. That's called using your mind. But if your mind uses you, that's usually a person that has poor planning. And as soon as they feel certain things or their anxiety comes up, this and that, it's like a hook in the mouth and it takes them wherever the hell it wants to take it. Wherever it wants to go. And God, like I said, I don't know where that goes. And the mindset is something that needs to be sharpened every day. You know, things like drugs and alcohol and anger and shopping and sleep and food, sometimes they can dull our mindset. When I say food, I'm talking about the excess stuff. Please feel free to enjoy the things you love in life and eat the things you love in life. When it becomes that we use those things to excess like we do with certain other things, that's where the problem exists. And the mindset is the difference maker between people that truly gain personal development, gain from it, and people who just go through the motions because they haven't really bought into the mind of like, hey, by doing this, my life is going to get better. By thinking this way, my life is going to get better. By surrounding myself with people that have similar mindsets, maybe I'll end up in a direction that they're headed to. You know, if you can't, by the way, let me just say this completely off the rip. Your mindset is so important that if your mindset towards personal development is negative, personal development won't work. Like you have to believe to your deepest core self that if I invest in myself, if I invest in my mind, my body, my spirit, my soul, that I will develop as a human being and I will end up somewhere better than I am today. If you can't sell yourself on that, personal development won't work. Why are there so many personal development books out there? Why are there so many talks on personal development? If they all worked, then everybody would be okay. The X factor for them working is the belief that it's going to work. It's the belief that it's going to work. If you don't believe it, you can go read 1,000 books and listen to 1,000 talks. And guess what? Your mind will use you, and you won't use your mind. Hossein John said, planning creates discipline, and discipline creates time for me to ponder. Yeah, and let's just talk about what discipline is. Discipline is doing what you know you need to do even when you don't want to do it. That's the definition of discipline. Doing what you know you need to do even when you don't want to do it. What do most people do? When they don't want to do it, they don't do it. Hence, they don't have any discipline. And there's nothing wrong with keeping your mind, keep my mind in check daily. You know, I do believe that it actually needs to be done daily, Jim. And here's the reason why. Because day to day, we experience different things. The same way that I need to shower daily in order to smell a certain way and to feel a certain way, I need to check my mind daily in order to make sure my mind doesn't do some weird things. Go to some weird places, have some weird thoughts. I check it daily, just like a daily shower, you know. The next E of development, so DEVELOP, yep, ME, is eagerness. You got to be eager. Eager means excited. You got to be eager for what's to follow after you start doing these things. You know, it's like, you remember when we were a kid and it's like the first time you're ready to go to like a ball game, or the first time you're getting ready to go to Disneyland, or the first time you're getting ready to go on a road trip, or the first time you're getting ready to, it's like your birthday or Christmas. You know, that night before, the excitement and it's so palpable, it's so intense that you can't fall asleep at night. You remember that eagerness? When you truly apply personal development in your life, the eagerness starts to wake up because you can't wait to see what's coming next. It's not like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I don't want to know. I don't want to wake up today because what's going to happen? It's not that. It's like, I can't wait to wake up today because I can't wait to see what's about to happen because you invested in it. Eagerness is a powerful thing. Eagerness is so freaking cool. And it's something that we associate to children in the more innocent type of species. But I think it's just a conditioning. I think it's a limiting belief that we think that we can't be that excited anymore. Actually, you know what? I'm not even going to say I know that it's a limiting belief. Have you ever met an adult that's like really eager and excited all the time? I could be one of them because I am. I'm like this all the time. Yeah, if you've had the chance to know me on a day-to-day basis, I'm very similar to this at an extremely amount of 95% of the time. I'm just so excited because I put so much work in that I can't wait to see what happens on the other side of it. You know, and it's and I'm not saying that's the level you want to be, maybe just somewhere in the middle. Just put some work in. Develop yourself. When you look at yourself a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, are you constantly evolving? Or are you declining? If you're declining, stop it right now and say, what the hell am I doing? Because objects in motion tend to stay in motion. It's going to keep going. It's going to keep going. Stop it and find out, how can I get excited about this thing called life again? You know, I did a whole talk last week or 2 weeks ago on passion and doing the things you love. Go watch it. I got excited talking about it, let alone how it made me feel. So the end of development is learning how to say no. So I don't think human beings can develop themselves without saying no to certain things. Now, the unfortunate part for a lot of people watching talks like this on these channels, whether you're on my Facebook or the Buckeye YouTube, whatever you're watching this on, a lot of you come from environments growing up that you didn't have the chance to say no as much as you needed to. Like, for example, if you come from a home that doesn't even have to be too broken. It could just be a home that one person's always working and one person's always stressed out doing something else, and you're like the oldest child of the family. Just naturally, sometimes, you know, the mom or the dad might be like, I need you to go pick up your siblings, go to the grocery shopping, do some laundry, and clean up the house. And you can't say no because they're doing other stuff as well. They're just as busy, so you have to say it. And all of a sudden you become this caretaker role, the person that's just taking care of everything and everyone, but they're like 12 years old. And then when you're 16 years old, you're doing the same. And then when you're 20 years old, you're still a caretaker. And then you get in a relationship with someone that you're also a caretaker because they can't handle their own stuff. You're good at that. You thrive at that at this point. You get into careers and jobs that all you do is take care of other people. You don't know how to say no. You don't know how to set boundaries. You don't know how to say no. And by the way, some of you, when you say no, you feel bad. You feel like guilty. Like, oh, I said no to them. Are they going to get mad at me? Are they going to hate? I don't know, man. Someone's reaction to you saying no is none of your business. If you say no to somebody and they get frustrated, annoyed, agitated, this and that, that's on them to figure out. It's not a cold, callous thing to say, because at some point it's either you or them. And don't get me wrong, sometimes it's okay to say yes and help people out and do things. That's a beautiful thing, but not at your own cost and not when it's a habitual thing you've been doing for decades, right? Warren Buffett, who's a pretty famous person. I'm not too, big on billionaires and that whole world. It's a world of excess, but to each their own, good for them. Warren Buffett at least is one billionaire that's a little bit easier to handle because he's on the more like human, humble side, if you will. He says the difference between successful people and very successful people is that very successful people have learned how to say no to almost everything. Almost everything. And when you look at your life and you say, wait, I just say yes to everything, just know that's going to hinder your personal development. And by the way, the people that typically do that, they have this type of martyr victim mentality. And they say, well, I could do all these things, but I can't because I have to do all these other things. You really don't. You choose to do the other things at the cost of this thing. It goes back to sacrifice. And I'm not saying don't take care of like your responsibilities and this and that, but maybe find out what you actually are responsible for and what you're not. Like you're not responsible for other people, especially grown people's thoughts and emotions and feelings. That's straight codependency if you think that is. Straight codependency. Oh man, I gotta read this thing. This is really cool. Yes, sir. You're dead on with this. I enrolled into advanced drug and alcohol counselor classes at OSU OKC. Also got my 60-day clean chip today and playing football. Got my first game today. Got to keep my mind busy with positive things. Wow. I mean, Alan, I'll tell you this, man. I got my 90-day chip inside of a drug and alcohol counseling class. So talk about amazing, amazing, amazing moment. So do this in front of this whole group right here. You got to commit to something. Finish what you started. Don't take a class or two and just drop out. Get it from the beginning to the end. Become a counselor. We need more of them. And this is really, really good news, man. When people move back home, they can go one or two ways. Some of them can go and continue back to their old life, and some of them can go and do what you're doing here, man. So I'm going to keep you in my thoughts. I hope that you finish what you started. I have a feeling you are gonna, and I can't wait for you to come up here one day. Maybe we'll do a little side-by-side interview, and you can be a drug and alcohol counselor telling people how to live a clean and sober life and make changes in their life, man. So that's what's available for you. And the last thing of development is the T, and it stands for something called together. So there's a famous proverb, I believe it comes probably from Africa, and it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. How cool is that? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. And what does that mean? Sometimes if you have an end game in mind that blows you away, that's beyond your wildest realm of reality and dreams and all that kind of stuff, I'm telling you, doing it up by yourself might not happen. But doing it with others, you got a good chance of getting there. Because when you go with a tribe, when you get tired and discouraged and you want to just go, they get around you and they keep pushing you forward. They keep pushing you forward. So that is my acronym system for development, because I talk about personal development all the time. If you don't know what it is, there you go. That's my belief. This is not like some evidence-based science research thing. It's just me watching people, talking to people, anecdotal evidence from a decade of therapy, realizing those, and also performance coaching and mindset coaching of top performers. I mean, that's where this stuff really hits home. If you want a life for yourself that you don't currently have, there's the blueprint. Yeah, I don't know how else you can give it to somebody. I deliver it with passion, enthusiasm, education, knowledge, firsthand, secondhand. There's people on the side that are saying, hey, we've done the same things and it works for us. So it's up to you. Do you follow the blueprint, or do you say, what am I going to do today? Why is my life not getting better? I don't know, but I love and appreciate all of you. And I will see you back here next time, same time, same place next week. And I look forward to another family education support group with all of you. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care of yourself. Start the personal development journey now. And we will see you soon. Bye, everyone.